guys, welcome to the gym. Hope you have a great workout and come on down and join Frankie and I.
We're at Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym in Syosset, the best gym I've ever trained at. I've been all over the world. Love this gym. It's my favorite. So much motivation when I come in through the doors. I never get a better workout than training. I'm trained here. And this is the man behind the scenes for what, 30 years? How many? 35 years. I came on later in the game, gave me a free membership when I can only afford.
Frankie's into the teenager.
I can only afford tuna and a can getting ready for my show. And gave me a free membership, so I always appreciate that. But everybody knows Steve. Go to bevfrancis.com. See his tank top. Look at that. And we're gonna train with IFB Pro League Pro, Arash, Rahbar.
We gotta find him.
We gotta find him.
Where he is.
Otherwise
I'll step in.
So we're gonna do 6 exercises that you should include in your upper body. So this is gonna be from Arash, who's on the phone over there. So we're gonna do, he's gonna give a couple of basics. Make sure you come in close with us. There you go. So Arash is going to give us 6 exercises you should include in your regimen for upper body. This guy is an amazing trainer, so knowledgeable, one of the most knowledgeable guys in the industry, and just, one of those guys who doesn't have an ego who continually learns stuff, and that's what I like about it.
Appreciate it. Yeah. We're going to keep it very basic. I'm not going to try to throw some fancy stuff for you guys. If you have any questions, let us know. You can shout them out to me. There are some fancy exercises out there that a lot of us don't know. Even me, I learn new stuff all the time. This guy teaches me a ton of stuff. But for the most part, even the basics, there's ways we can improve upon the basics, make them more effective, and make them more difficult without necessarily going heavier in weight. There's always several, not more than one, several ways of making an exercise more difficult without just increasing the weight. So the most basic exercise that a lot of us think we got down packed, there's some tips and tricks and some things that we could do better to get better contraction, to get more muscle growth, and to challenge yourself. Because at the end of the day, guys, you notice, you look around the gyms, I've been training in gyms for 28 years, most of the people look the same. And it's not because they don't show off, it's not because they don't work hard, it's because nothing is progressively changing. And in bodybuilding, things need to progressively increase on a weekly, monthly basis in order for you to look like this guy. Because if he did what he did 20 years ago and didn't increase, he'd never get to here, So for the beginners, you guys can do anything and you'll grow. If we do the same program as you guys, the beginners, if Frank and I do it, we're not going to get as much out of it because we've been doing this for so long. So come join us, please. Feel free to ask any questions.
To understand, just to reiterate what he's saying, is that we could pick 150 different exercises here, give you 10 sets of 10, a million different rep schemes and stuff. But these are just 6 exercises today that we're going to pick. We may, come back and give you 6 additional. And he's right. You can take a bench press, do 5 sets of 3, 10 sets of 10, drop sets, tri-sets, whatever it may be. So there's a lot of different, like you said, you can take one exercise and do so many different, things with it. So we're gonna follow Arash.
If it's okay with you, we'll do a couple exercises. There'll be maybe some bonus exercises that we won't fully do, but we'll throw some tips in. So we'll pick a back exercise and I'll show you guys. But what I'd like to show, we'll start with the bigger muscle back. Are we gonna do any legs?
Just upper body today.
Okay.
Yeah, 6.
So upper body, we'll start with the bigger muscle, which is back. I like to go with the bigger muscle and work down when I do full body or circuit. You need more energy. It takes a little bit more strength and oomph in there. But with back days, what I really like to do is I like to get the lats firing and get blood and neurological signal to the lats prior to training. So one thing I do is superset assisted pull-ups and pullovers. So we're going to start with that.
Make sure you can hear us and that volume's up. Check out all the handles that we have. Talk about like a buffet, a smorgasbord of different handles to hit, volume train and hit different angles in the back. Oh, it's amazing. I never saw those handles. All the fit people in this gym.
Just want to make sure that works. All right, so we're going to start with the assisted pull-ups.
that machine yesterday and I couldn't find it. 202, Mr. Olympia, right here.
Hey, don't forget it.
All right, so
5'2".
both Frank and I can do pull-ups. The reason I'm doing assisted is not because I can't do a pull-up. It's because when you do pull-ups, you use so many muscles in your upper body, and you really muscle it up. And you'll see a lot of people cave in, use their delts, use their biceps. I really want to pull with my lats and not use so much of the muscles here. I'll pull through the elbows, make sure my chest is up, make sure my posture is right, and just focus on the contraction of the lats. And then immediately I'm going to go over to the pull-ups.
He's not using any body momentum except lift it up. Side chest coming up. Squeezing at the top and stretching his lats on the bottom. It's all about your form. And I always just say good form, good body, bad form, bad body. So he's making every single rep count. If you're a newbie and you're writing in your book, I gotta do 12 reps, and you just kind of run through it, you're not gonna get the same as if you really concentrate and focus on what you're training. And I'm a big believer in positive visualization. Like when I train, I thought of leave hands back. Just to let you know.
I like to do these back to back, but I'll stick around while he does a set. With Frank, the condition he's in, you can see all the muscles. So you guys see the tension is in his lats, and he doesn't let the tension go. He doesn't bottom out completely and lock his arms out where he's just putting stress on the rotator cuff of the arms. He's keeping tension here, and he's almost acting as if he's pulling through his elbows. Believe me, for you guys that haven't tried this, I didn't do assisted pull-ups for 20 years because I didn't need to. I could do a pull-up. This is a game changer for me. So follow me over here. I'll come into these immediately after. Now, I know this is a funky grip and a lot of you guys don't have this. You can use a rope, you can use individual handles. The key here is not to muscle this up with your upper body, but drag. You're almost sweeping your arms forward, using your lats. So, as far as my back is concerned, I keep a linebacker stance in almost every single exercise we do. This linebacker arch back, butt out stance is really important throughout all movements that we do so you don't put stress on your back. And he's not muscling it down with his triceps and his traps, but he's pulling through here, almost as if it's attached to the wrist and you're dragging it rather than pushing it. This is a huge mistake I see a lot of people doing with pull-ups.
So a lot of people, want you to demonstrate, so pretend I'm a client and this is the first time I'm doing it.
So main thing is the tension, I don't want in his fingertips, I want in his palms. And he's going to be dragging downwards, like sweeping the floor, pulling through the elbow.
And then straight up.
Exactly. You lean forward a little bit more. Pull that tension here and drag through. You feel that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm still sore from those farmer walks.
I mean, you can again, he's so lean. Are we in your red? You're using this? Yeah. He's so lean, you can see the fibers in his lats. Now, is he using some traps and some upper body? Of course, he's going to be using some of his arms. But you want to take those muscles out as much as possible.
I think the palm grip with the drag makes you concentrate on the movement more too. You can't really cheat.
Yes.
When you're gripped on, you kind of lose momentum. You can't.
I can show you guys the wrong way in the next set I do, but dumbbell pullovers are awesome. I love those. It's a classic exercise. But for me in bodybuilding, it's all about risk versus reward. What am I doing with dumbbell pullovers? It's like for your rib cage, Arnold and those guys back in the day believed they would expand your chest cavity, which is not humanly possible. It hits a little bit of lats, a little bit of chest, but it puts your shoulder in a very awkward position. It's a very dangerous exercise. And I got to the point where I was doing a 150-pound dumbbell with pullovers. So I started having shoulder issues, not because of that, but it was a risk versus reward thing. So this is another alternative that, in my opinion, doesn't put that tension on the shoulder.
And you really should personalize your workout based on your own physicality too. So.
Same shoes. They're coming out with new release this week.
I just got the email.
Oreos?
Yeah, I just got the email. Yeah.
They're the best.
look here. Look at the grip on the top. Good thumb out. I do the same thing. A lot of people do a closed grip. It's almost mimicking a back double bicep in a way. It's exactly the kind of, you know, you pull the back down.
Why not? You go back to your Dumbbell Pullovers?
Not yet.
I went back.
Yeah.
I said, I'm on mistake. Dennis loves it. More money. I know. It doesn't make all I said you're a dummy mix. Dennis the best.
So I mean, Frank is a tough one because he's picture perfect all the time. But Frank, do you notice more of the pump in your lats?
Absolutely.
More connection?
Yep.
So if we were just doing conventional pull-ups, especially as fresh as we are, you're going to be using so many other muscles. And I want you guys to keep this in mind, the word isolation that you hear a lot in bodybuilding, and I'm going to touch on that real quick.
One of the hardest things to do as a young bodybuilder is to curb your ego and not lift this heavy weight and kind of get better form and really work that rep instead of trying to, you know, outdo everybody in the gym. So he's doing a drag.
Pretty
Get a
bent
full
over.
extension.
And
Yeah.
I make sure when I come down, I let my chest come up a little.
Nice.
So at the bottom, my chest is coming up a little bit, and I'm almost flexing my lower back and lower lats. The issue is, it's so hard to target the lower lats. When we do back and when we do pulling, a lot of times we're using a lot of the upper back and a lot of traps and a lot of rear delts. And that's not the difficult area to target when it comes to lats. So a lot of people that have a lagging back, it's their lower back that's shallow.
Yes, it's very difficult, especially genetically if you don't have a good lower back. So,
You see when he comes up, how much his lat comes out. So it shows you that the tension is on that lat. So he's going to be using primarily the bulk of his force to pull with the lat rather than the arms. Bend over more and see how it feels. Better or no?
because my arms are so long,
Okay.
yeah, I have to come up with.
So you see, like, I asked him to just change a little bit. You guys have to, you
Yeah,
can't
right.
always do everything picture perfect like you see in a magazine. You have to change things around. Just a little twist of the wrist, a little angle with the shoulder makes a huge difference. So you have to do what feels right for you. If you do an exercise because you see Frank doing it or me doing it or someone in a magazine and it doesn't feel right, stop. Put it down, walk away, or reevaluate.
Back in the day when we did pull downs, I'd have to do them on the floor because the machines were made for people who were like 5'9". So people are like, why are you doing pull downs on the floor? Because I can't get a full extension sitting in the seat. Well, no, we can do it. Yeah.
All right, so next exercise is going to be a row. Now, the main thing with rowing, regardless if you're doing seated rows, machine rows, or dumbbell rows, it's all about where your hand ends up. And I see a lot of guys, again, muscling up weight and pulling using their traps and using their upper back. So we're going to show you guys how to focus on doing a row where you're going to be using more of your lower back and where to pull and how to position yourself. I'm going to do a machine seated row because most of you have those in gyms, and even if you don't, you're doing dumbbells on the bench. It's the same concept.
Yep. These are 48 and a half pounds
Yeah, I weighed them
each.
not long ago.
This one's 51
Yeah, they're heavy. They're 3 pounds heavier.
at least.
All right, so when you guys do rows, a lot of times I see people on machine rows, when they pull or even a lat pull down, they pull backward and their chest comes off the pad. This is not wrong. where there's going to be a little bit of momentum and a little bit of swinging being used. Anytime you come forward, keep your chest stuck on the pad, move your butt back a little bit, it makes the exercise, I would call it a completely different exercise. It's so much harder, and you're going to have more of a contraction in your lat and use less momentum and less traps in your delts.
Basically more of an isolation. Got a good range of motion. See how his butt's back. Chest against the pad. Bring your elbows back. Get a good squeeze. Again, it's not about the weight. It's about the form.
Now in this exercise, I'll do a couple more. I need to make sure my hands are not too high. If they're high, I'm going to be contracting my upper back. I want my hand closer to my hip, so I'm going to bring the seat up a bit.
Very, very important on rows to get those elbows back. Elbows back and squeeze. Squeeze your middle back.
That was a lot better. You can even stand. I even drop the seat sometimes and stand up. But the key is contracting down here and not so much up here. Up here is easy. Feel that down low?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, you can even feel the lower lat contracting.
Absolutely, yeah.
So again, if you guys don't have this particular exercise, yo, what's up, man? How are you? This is the Grandmaster. This is one of our coaches behind the scenes.
We had him yesterday for legs at the barn.
What are you training? What are you training now?
Doing back.
We're doing
I
back.
actually am doing back.
We're not doing back. We're doing like 6 exercises.
Oh,
Like everybody.
you're doing content.
Yeah.
Good contact. 60
I got-
years old.
I got
Show
you.
me
I
abs.
got you. Huh?
Show me abs. There you go.
Let's see it.
Always
How you doing,
inspiring.
bro? Hang on there. Yeah.
We're doing 6 exercises you should do for your upper body.
What are you doing? That's your first one?
We did like a pull-up, and then we're gonna move on to like a shoulder, a chest, arm. You know what I mean? We're not really doing the workout. We're just showing.
We're talking about it, yeah. We'll slow you down. You're too fast.
Yeah. Tone is a high volume guy, and he's strong too, but he does
We
a
had
lot
this
of volume.
conversation. I'll tell you. I'm high volume.
It's not more high volume than me.
All right, so even if you don't have this exercise, even if it's a regular seated row or a different hammer strength type of machine, you can implement the same thing. Try scooting your butt back, bringing your chest forward, staying on the pad, and pay attention to where your hand ends up. If it ends up here, here, or here, it's significantly different of where you're targeting your back. And one thing that I want to touch on that Frank said about isolation, the human body doesn't know it's back there. The human body doesn't know you're training chest or arms. It's going to use every muscle from your toes to your ears to lift the weight. So you want to do your best to isolate, but that's not necessarily possible to fully shut off every muscle and just use that one muscle. So we have to, through proper form, momentum, and good rep range, put the tension on that muscle. You can't shut off other muscles, but you want to try not to use them. One more here?
Yeah. We'll do one
I'm
more.
going to do this one standing with one arm.
A different version. And I actually I try to do a couple of different unilateral movements within my workout all the time, especially for arms. Arash, do you do any partial movements at the end here to burn it out?
I do.
Yeah, so do I. So when you feel like you're burnt out and you can't get any more reps, you can do some partial movements at the end. Get a conditioned squeeze. A la Andre Ferguson.
So there's a lot of different intensity techniques. Drop sets, supersets, cluster sets, partials. I love cluster sets. And I was doing cluster sets before I knew what cluster sets were. I would get tired in my set. We can pull over here. Sorry about that. I'd get tired in my set, and I would take a break. I would just hold the weight up and take a break or put it down or whatever. And my partners would say, well, keep going, keep going. If I kept going, I'd only get 1 or 2 more reps. But I would take a rest, 5, 10 seconds, and I'd be able to do more reps with the same weight. Whereas a drop set, you're going immediately, but you're lowering the weight. So think about a weight that you can't get more than 10 reps. Wouldn't it be beautiful to get 12 or 15? So you give yourself a little bit of rest. This was originated by powerlifters. So a weight that they could only get 1 rep, they'll rest 10, 15, even if you need 20 seconds, and go again, and go again. You're getting more reps. So I love doing clusters, and like Frank said, if you're shot, you can't do another rep, but you could do 5 partials, do it. It's still gonna fire the muscle. So Frank is doing
the partials here at the end. I stop here, keep the elbow back.
So it's constant tension. Whereas throughout a rep range, there's a little bit of rest at the top and a little bit of rest at the bottom. But what he's doing when he's doing those partials, it's constant tension. And he's making this weight that's not that difficult for him a lot more difficult. So he did the same that I did with one arm, but he did it seated. So just on this one exercise that's fixated, it's not a free weight, we just basically did 3 different variations.
I always equate it to people who play the guitar. Some people who play the guitar normally, there's 500 different things you could do with a guitar.
Yeah.
Some the experts can do. You can make 5, 10 different workouts with just what we're doing with this exercise right now.
You got to get creative, and you got to feel what you're doing. You have to go based on feeling and not what you look like or, again, what you see in the magazine. We're going to move on from back. We'll move on to shoulders. Just remember, tips on back. Make sure you're paying attention to where your hands end up. If you're pulling up here or pulling down here. Make sure you're not caving in and muscling it with your delts and your arms. I like to keep my shoulders back. So if I'm doing any type of row, I like to have my shoulders back before I pull. I don't like to pull like this. I don't like to do a lat pull down like this. I like to do it back and down, retract, and then pull. If you can retract, engage a muscle prior to loading it, you're 10 steps ahead. So if you guys just stand there and roll your shoulders back and kind of play with flaring your lats and you feel that contraction, if you can contract that muscle prior to pulling it, what's up, brother? This is one of our old school
everybody,
guys. One of the old school guys that'll wrestle you and put you on the ground if you don't do stuff right. So keep that in mind when you're doing back. I want shoulders retracted prior to the pull so I engage more of my lats. Move on to shoulders. Shoulders for me were a very important, all body parts are important, but I was obsessed when I was younger with making my shoulders as wide as I could because I wasn't that big of a guy. I don't have this frame. So heavy presses definitely put a lot of meat on my shoulders, but really what gave me this cap that you see on Frank is side lateral raises.
100%.
And there's hundreds of variations of side raises. I'm gonna do 2 variations, one with dumbbells and one with cable. And you might think they're the same, but they are not. I'll even do both of them the same day. Why? Because when you're using a dumbbell, all the tension is up here, and there's almost no tension down here.
Right.
You can take a 100-pound dumbbell, I don't recommend this, and move it this much. There's no tension. The work starts from here to here. Cables are exactly the opposite. There's no tension up here, and it's all here, from 0 to 100. So you're loading the muscle in a different plane, in a different part of the range, which is very, very crucial. So let's start with some dumbbells?
Right, and side laterals are one of the most neglected exercises for up-and-coming bodybuilders because they're trying to do heavy shoulder presses and, trying to really push up the weight. Laterals, you don't use as much weight, or they use incorrect form by trying to use too much weight. So when you do this, and you like the movements that he's talking about, try and use lightweight until you get your form down 100% before you start, jumping up.
Absolutely. Alright, so I'm doing a standing 2-arm. I could do a seated 2-arm, I could do a seated on an incline 2-arm, and I could do a standing 1-arm. I really love doing standing 1-arm and go much, much heavier. But the key here is I'm in a straight line with my wrist, elbow, and shoulder. My wrist is not up here, then my elbow down here. I keep them in a parallel line. They're not completely out to the side. So a little bit forward. You all right there?
Good. There we go.
Hazards to the job.
Yeah.
A slight bend in the elbow. And I want to make sure I don't do this. You see a lot of this in the gyms, a lot of this. When you do this, there's a millisecond, a fraction of a second where the weight is suspended in midair and there's zero tension on the muscle. So this is by no means a heavy weight for a 20-pound dumbbell, but just by holding it there for a millisecond, my shoulders are burning. So,
You know, it's interesting, Arash, because when I want to, at the end of my workout, in the beginning, I'll actually do the same, mimic the same kind of, I just use the plates to kind of warm it up.
do you guys see what's firing first on here? You see these fibers that are firing on? We're focusing completely on using this muscle, nothing else. He's lifting with this muscle. It's very easy to overpower with this muscle to track, but we don't want to do that. And when he ends up at the top, he's a slight bend in his elbow, and it's a straight line. I can literally draw a straight line. And how high to go? I personally like to go parallel to the ground. The most tension's here. You'll see even Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the day doing them real high. It's not wrong, but I feel that one, it could be a little dangerous.
It is wrong. No,
I'm being polite.
incorporates too much traps.
One big mistake also a lot of people make is you look up to the fitness influencers or bodybuilders that have progressed, and you should, but you should also understand that they've gone to a certain level. You didn't see what they did to get there. So there's a lot of top bodybuilders with phenomenal physiques that don't do full range of motion. Is it wrong? No, not for them because it's working. But for us in the beginning, we need to incorporate full range for strength and for full development of the physique. And some people with their genetics and their muscle bellies and the length of their muscles, they can do things incorrectly or half a rep and still grow. But for the most of us, we got to do things correctly.
And you also see maybe one workout in their entire, you know, they might film one workout in 2 months. You don't know what other workouts they're doing.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I film people, they like to keep things secret. Remember, Sophia? Like, I'm not going to give you the whole workout.
I give you guys everything. And the reason I'm bouncing around so much is because I want you guys to really get something out of this. You know, record this if you can, save it, watch it again. The 2-arm I showed you, tight core, everything stable. What I really attribute a lot of my shoulder width to is for many years, over 10 years growing up, I did heavy dumbbells, as heavy as 60 pounds for me. I've even gone heavier than that. 1 arm at a time, and I like to hold on to something with the other arm. So I would hold on to something. I really believe in having a good foundation of your feet and stable. Tight core, and I would do 1 arm right here.
I just did these today.
Yeah?
Yeah, hold it on. I actually did the 1-arm press.
These are one of my
Holding on too.
favorites.
Yeah.
I've even gone as far as wrapping up into a Smith machine bar
that's
when
good
going
idea.
really heavy because I have so much tension in my body. You know, if you're not anchored, if you don't have good footing and a good foundation in any lift, you're not going to be able to be as strong as you possibly can. So I would do these, hold on to, again, the linebacker arching my back, bending the knees, chest up, a slight bend in the elbow.
Look how high it's going.
Now you'll see a lot of people bring the weight here. It's not wrong, but what we tend to do when we bring the weight here, we swing. Whereas when it comes down to my leg, it stops. Stop. And that actually makes me think of a dead stop. For those of you who don't know, tell me what a dead stop is.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. Oh, but before I just lose my train of thought, we were just talking about doing that exercise today. And I just started doing that too, which is funny because when we shot Maria yesterday, she was doing the same thing over there. So I was like, you know what? Come on around this with you. Like one of the things that I like to do, you know, versus actually I use a little heavier weight, is I'll hold on to something as well, and then I'll do 10, 12 reps on a shoulder press, and then I'll stop and then come out with the side lateral. So my press will be like that. And then come out with them.
So why would Frank be doing that? The simple answer is he's challenging himself. He's making it
Intensifying the
difficult.
workout. Yeah, just to intensify the workout. And if you really want to be ambitious, And I'll do this at the end of the workout. I'll do 10 reps, bringing it down, and it's more of a, so I get more of a stretch on the shoulder. 10, then 10, and then stop, and then 10. So do 30 reps, 3 cycles around, no rest. And then that's when you like throwing a cherry on top,
That'll burn you out. If you guys do that in the beginning of your workout, you're going to be able to use a lot less weight and still fatigue the muscles. So it feels great lifting heavy weight. I'm not going to lie. We all feel good when we lift heavy weight. But if we can grow without lifting max weight, that's awesome because you're less prone to injury. Bottom line is, guys, human beings are not the physically strongest creatures on earth. Secretaries and golf players have injuries. Let that settle in for a second and then ask yourself, how are you going to be injury-free training for many years? Most probably you're not. Hopefully you don't get injured. I don't say expect on getting injured, but this is hazardous and you can get injured. So you want to plan ahead before you get injured and pre-exhaust and work on your technique. If you do what Frank was saying, I promise you, your weight for the rest of the workout is going to come down, but you're still taxing your muscle very much. Do we have people commenting? No? So one thing I was going to ask you guys is, for those of you who are watching, Frank, his other muscle is he engaging? His core from here to here, all the way down to his left hip and further down to his foot, has to be engaged to keep him balanced and stable. And that's amazing because in a lot of traditional bodybuilding movements, we don't do that.
What country, write in the text, how many countries are watching us right now? Write the country that you're in currently. We want to know. What's your country? All right, third exercise. 3.
All right, so that was for the shoulders. Now we're going to move on to chest. And again, we're going to keep it very basic. We're going to do dumbbell flies. And I'm going to show you a lot of mistakes and a couple of tricks that we can do to improve the exercise.
Nepal. US. Lebanon.
It'll be on YouTube. This will be on YouTube, muscleandfitness.com, and then we'll show clips throughout the week. So we'll get a couple 100,000 people. You want an incline or you want a flat? Real workout, real time. Now, this is one of those exercises that I see continually being done wrong. So, again, I use too much weight in this exercise. He's getting every little bit of this full range of motion, stretch, get a good stretch, and the squeeze on top. Perfect. Now, Raj, show them some of the ways that people do it wrong on their way. This is obviously the correct way. Right. You see the difference? See the difference, Sophia?
I see it.
Right. Just getting more of a stretch. Perfect. I see people use 100, 120 pounds out here. And basically, this is what they do. Come on, like this.
So it's basically doing
so wrong.
a press with a different angle. It's a press, it's not a fly.
When I was doing this, I trained with this Masters Nationals champion, Tony Pandolfo, and he's like, Frank, you do this like you're hugging a barrel.
Yes, I was just going to
and
say.
And I was like, I don't know when I ever hug a barrel, but I get the concept.
Mine is hug a tree.
Hug a tree.
You can't hug a tree with straight arms. The bend in the elbow stays fixated throughout the whole range, same as the side lateral. This bend does not change. It just opens up at the shoulder. Watch Frank, guys.
Yeah, and you know what? The top part of the movement is just as important, that little squeeze. Stretch. And Arash, if you change your hand position too, like you were saying before, you hit a different angle with your chest.
I think with your hand, your palms are a little bit more facing the mirror. You're hitting a little bit more of the upper shelf and the delt. When they're turned in, you're getting a little bit more thickness. A lot of people ask me how do you get chest thickness. This is the answer. You're going to get a lot of thickness in your chest from here. Watch Frank is doing something different for you guys.
And also too, when you're in this I like to do a superset with this, where you kind of press it up. Again, the same concept, put the squeeze on top.
So again, he's fatiguing himself with the flies and then pressing a weight that isn't that hard. I mean, this is a lightweight, but the weight that he'd be using with the press isn't that hard, heavy for him, but it's difficult because he just did 10, 12, 15 reps on the flies. So
it's about continually challenging yourself to be better, you know. And I'm such a volume trainer that I like to add different exercises to my routine over time.
So make sure, regardless if you're doing flies on dumbbells here or if you're using cables, make sure the bend in the elbow stays constant. You're keeping the stress on your chest. You guys see I came down this low, Frank went down a lot lower. It's different bodies, different. For instance, I have an impingement in the shoulder. I have a bad shoulder. I can't go much lower, you know. And sometimes if I go lower, you got to see where you feel in your chest the most. Frank, with the way he's built, he has long arms and he's very, very wide. So his range is not going to be the same as mine.
And I had to modify mine because I have a torn bicep on top, so a lot of different movements I had to modify a little bit, or just adjust the weight.
That actually just looks like a muscle definition. I wouldn't even. It just looks extra shredded. It's like.
I'll show you one more time. How tall are you, Arash? 5'10 and a quarter. What is that for classic physique? 215. 215.
I need that quarter.
You need that quarter, or you need to grow an afro?
I need that quarter.
You need an extra 2 inches of the
I think I'm only one of the only guys in top 5 Olympia that has made weight consistently.
Is that right? 215.
It's not easy to make that weight for me at all.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's been my main struggle in classic physique, is making weight.
What do you currently? I know you've had some issues. What do you right now?
I'm about 240 now without really eating much, so my body just sits at this weight. Usually I get ready for a show, I'm shredded, ready to go, and I'm 225, so I have to lose 10 pounds in a couple days for weigh-in, and it throws my body off. It's just not, it's not conducive to looking good or feeling good.
I weighed myself yesterday. It was 232.
So one thing about Frank, besides the fact that his arms are longer than most of your legs, he's very wide, and his chest is very wide. His chest plate and his shoulders are wide. So of course, naturally, the dumbbell is going to be further from his body for his chest to fully open up. So stop here at 90, come down to the ground, so stop here. Okay, this is what I was doing, but it's not enough for him. His chest isn't fully stretched out, so Frank goes lower, gets a full contraction. Anything lower than he's going, where he's doing now, is just overextending. The chest is no longer strong, and the load is going to go on the shoulder. You guys have to understand, when a muscle is fully elongated and stretched out, or fully tightened and contracted, it's at its weakest point. So if you put your heavy weight and you go all the way back, your chest has no longer any power or strength to stabilize or pull the weight up, and you're using other muscles and putting your shoulder in a hazardous position. So I don't recommend that at all. What I wanted to show them was one more side lateral.
Oh, the cable? Okay, sure. Yeah.
These are both being used. We can do it on the leg.
Walk through Bev Francis Gym. Follow me.
Take the tour.
Come on. All the tension's here. It goes from nothing to 100% tension right here. So partials will actually be great here if you want to do them as well.
In the same form. Same exact form with the dumbbells as well. See, that's on the all the way up. Nice and smooth. Every single rep is the same. And also, make sure your feet are set on every rep. I see people with their feet too close, too wide. It should be maybe shoulder width apart. And you should get a slight bend in your knee to take pressure off your lower back. So, just little things. Oh, no mirror.
You guys see how there's no bounce? I mean, we all know we're not supposed to bounce, but if you start paying attention to yourself and your training partners and other people in the gym, there's always a little bit of rhythm and bounce. That's okay at times, especially when you're going very heavy, but look at that. It's all tension at the top. He's not bouncing or swinging, and he's not rushing the most important part of the movement. A full contraction, he's giving himself. He's not holding it for 1 second, but he's giving himself a fraction of a second and then lowering the weight. Now, I'm sure all of you know this. I know this, and I've neglected it as well. Where's most of the damage in the muscle being done in a rep? On the negative. But for some reason, we neglect the negative and we rush it. We just drop the weight. So if you were to do a slower negative, you'd be getting 50% more muscle growth, development, strength over the year. Just think about that. You don't have to do more reps. Nope. You don't have to do more sets and more exercises. You just have to pay attention and slow the negative down. There's more damage, for whatever reason, on the muscle during the negative than the actual exertion of the positive. Isn't that interesting?
It's all about the form, honestly. It's all about the form.
Someone asked, can you guys tell a bit more about bending knees?
On this exercise?
It's just a slight bend in his knee, just to take pressure off of his lower back, right?
Yeah, I like to use a race car analogy. If you take a race car with really stiff suspension and you drive it over potholes, everything comes loose in the car. If I stand here with locked knees completely straight, I'm putting tension on my lower back.
Right.
And this is tough, you know? I give a little bit. My knees are slightly bent, my core is tight. Now this comes more into effect when the weight is heavier, because if there's a little bounce or rhythm, it's not to do unless you have to.
And it's just like, look, if I'm standing here too, with feet, that just push me. I don't have it. Now if I put my feet wider, I have a stronger base. So, I mean, just little things that you should pay attention to.
You played sports, right?
Yes.
I think it's also like a little bit of the athletic background. I had an athletic background. I was a martial artist. I played football and I ran track. And when I train with guys that had no athletic background, I see the difference. Not only being able to push yourself harder, but also like what he just said took me back to football. Martial arts and football, the first thing they taught us was our stance. If you don't have a good stance, you'll get knocked right over. And we generate power from the ground. If you don't have a good stance on your lifts, you don't have any power. You don't have a good footing, you'll just topple over.
100%. Yep.
You good here?
Yes.
So in your next shoulder workout, try 2 different variations of side lateral raises, and if you haven't done that before, I promise you're going to notice a huge difference. You don't have to get sore for muscles to grow, but muscle soreness is a huge, huge factor and a good indication of telling you you did something new, a new movement, a new angle, or intensity, volume, or weight. Let's move on to arms.
Yep, let's do it.
Running low on battery, Frank.
How much time we got?
You have about 10%.
Okay. I got 2 more sets. Do triceps and do that too.
Cool. Blue pad? Jimmy? Oh. Doesn't matter.
We'll do it standing.
Okay. See, I like the way he does this because he's like, does the same way as I do. Full range, squeeze the tricep. I see so many people just, you know, not lock out and squeeze. I lock it out and squeeze every time.
How about this?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I like that.
So what I like about doing these is it's overhead. A lot of overhead stuff for skull crushers puts your elbow in an awkward position. It hurts my elbows. This doesn't hurt my elbows as much. What this is doing is it's helping me train my tricep throughout the whole entire plane. It's very, very hard to target the top of the tricep that goes into your armpit. When you do these for the first time, you'll be sore in a spot that you have never been sore before. And you guys notice how his elbows are not down here. They're parallel with his head or even higher. If he goes down, keeps his elbows up, it puts more tension here. It becomes harder. And he's spreading out. That's the beauty about using individual handles or ropes. At the end, he's spreading out a little bit and furthering his contraction. See, we know a contraction to be from here to here. From here to here. That's a full contraction. Can I contract more from here? Yes. I can't go higher, but if I twist, I supinate. You see my bicep? Now, if I contract here and I go out, I'm getting a little bit more contraction. So even though you're fully locked out, if you spread and push your wrist out, you're going to get a further contraction. And again, that little bit goes a long way.
I know people like to say, I'm going to use continuous tension on your tricep, and maybe there's an excuse not to lock it out. But if you want that deep muscle separation and the striations and stuff, obviously the diet and everything else, I think goes hand in hand. Perfect. See how his hands are turning out? It's one of those movements too where it's more of a control movement, so you're not going to really use a crazy amount of weight. Good.
The first time I did these, I was in so much pain, like deep in here. And I was just hooked. Also, I like how it doesn't put too much pressure on my elbows. Skull crushers kill my elbows.
Oh, mine too. And there's two different ways you can put your feet. Like for me, I'll drop my feet and sit my butt down, don't come out. But a lot of people will come one foot out also. I don't think there's a wrong way or a right way.
When I go heavy, I'll stagger.
Yeah, I like to sit down and
I like the idea of doing it the way he's doing it. If you can be even, your knees and your hips, and your straps over your shoulders, you're more likely to be even in the upper body. I'll stagger if I'm going very heavy because it keeps me from being thrown back. Because this takes a lot of core strength and stability to be able to hold the weight once you go up into it. You should do some things wrong so I can correct you and show that he does everything right.
try. Like that Francis Powerhouse trim shirt.
Someone asked for lower chest exercise.
So all exercises for the chest, like flies, incline, decline, will hit your whole chest. So decline presses will actually hit your whole entire chest. You have insertions here and here. Anytime you bring this point closer to this point, it's upward. Anytime you bring this point closer to this point, it's lower. So any cable from top to down will hit your lower chest. Any cable from the bottom to up, which is very difficult, don't go heavy till you get the form done, will hit your lower chest. And I love decline presses for the whole chest, but make sure you're doing them correctly. A lot of people will bring the bar or the dumbbells down to here, and their range will just be like this. It's too easy. They're using a lot of shoulders. Make sure you bring the bar to your actual chest, right? The lower part of your chest, or even if you're on the decline bench, you can even bring the bar up here. But if the bar is coming here, you're just kind of cheating and you're shortening the range. Kind of like some power lifters, they're trying to shorten the range because they just want to lift the weight up.
Yeah, and as we said, decline benches, supersetted with the cables coming up, like that is a really good combination.
But overall, absolutely. But if you just get your chest bigger, if your chest just grows, and you eat properly, and you train with intensity, the whole chest is going to get thicker, your lower chest is going to get bigger. Most people that ask for like, how do I get the bottom of my bicep or my long head of my tricep bigger, their bicep overall is not big enough. Their tricep overall is not big enough. Their chest overall, I doubt the guy's chest is this big and his lower chest is weak. So just build it overall, pay attention to those movements. But I do incline, flat, sometimes decline, and flies for 20 years for my chest. And it grew immensely because the intensity and form that I used doing it.
One of the standard workouts back in the day was 4 sets, 12, 10, 8, 6, bench press, incline press, decline press. That's 12 sets, then a fly movement. So 16
Basic.
sets, basic. And like Arash said, you're working your entire chest through that workout. You're not going to come in and specifically work, I'm going to specifically work my lower chest. You're going to hit your shoulders, you're going to hit your triceps. With any compound movement, you're working your whole upper body. Can you isolate it somewhat? Yes. But don't neglect doing inclines and flats and all the other movements.
What I love to say is not what you're doing in life or in the gym, it's how you do it. So, what does Frank Sepe do for his chest? Does he do, how do you get such a big chest? Well, the worst person to ask in the gym is the guy with the freaking body. Asking Arnold Schwarzenegger what he does for pecs, or God rest his soul, George Peterson, what he does for back, they're both genetically blessed. It's how you do the movement. We all do the same exercises. There's thousands of exercises, but the core exercises that Frank is saying is what Frank and I have been doing. Sometimes we'll switch it up to be fancy and try new things and teach you guys new things, but for the basics, the meat and potatoes, I've been doing some of the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's how I go about doing it. Showing up at work every morning is not going to make you $1 million. You have to be very good at what you do. You have to pay attention to what you're doing. You have to focus on the rep range, the intensity, and make sure you're training with quality and not just going through the movements. Guys, showing up at the gym, great job. Staying on your diet, great job. But just going through the motions might get you in shape, but will not make you look like this guy or make you look the best version of yourself. So you really, really need to apply yourself and pay attention to the little things.
100%. I know a lot of fitness influencers out there who want to reinvent the wheel. They're trying out these new crazy exercises. Sticking to the basics and using a whole lot of different techniques is all that you need.
I know we're going off.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know we're going off on tangents, but I'm tired of people looking at someone like Frank and just being like, dude, what's your secret? Like DMing Frank, like, what do you do? How do you do this? When I was a younger kid, teenager, Frank was on the cover of all of the magazines. From then till now, Frank has been lifting every day. Frank has been watching what he eats every single day, and he's been conscious of his life choices, his health choices, and his physique. This did not happen overnight. I can tell you guys, you can change your lives, you can change your physiques in literally 60 to 90 days. You can make a drastic change. But my physique that took me to the top 5 Olympia stage, top 2 in the world, took me 20 years. Frank, how long have you been training?
37 years.
I've been
Figured out yesterday.
Very few people, when I started training 28 years, yeah, no, that's a lot.
Yeah.
I've been training 28 years. He has me on 10 years. 10 years. So guys, take these tips, keep doing what you're doing, focus, train hard, but be consistent. We're gonna move over to biceps, and then we're gonna have to leave you guys.
You know what I just said? The skinniest guy in the gym makes the most noise. 1 second.
I feel like the motto of this live is form, no swinging, no bouncing, and this is my favorite bicep exercise of all time. If you guys do this correctly and you're not fried, you didn't do it correctly. So why do we use these pads? Because we take the muscle that gets in the way of training our bicep, our shoulder, we take it out of the equation. By sinking in here, you're trying your best to isolate your bicep and you're not using that front delt. So nice and slow, full range of motion, it makes this a lot harder when you're standing. Because when you're standing, you're using a little bit of the front delt. Your elbow moves. We'll show you afterwards the incorrect way. You have a little bit too much movement in your elbow and shoulder. So this is gonna allow me to keep the tension on my bicep. And when I say this is my favorite exercise, I don't know about you, Frank, but I've been doing this exercise on my bicep days for about 20 years.
I love this one. You can't shoot. You know what I mean? It isolates your bicep. There's no more body momentum. It's all bicep.
I even sometimes put my hand on my shoulder to make sure I'm not overpowering. Like right now, it's not firing at all. When I go heavy and I fatigue, sometimes I feel a little bit of fire. But look at, there's no gap between my armpit. You'll see a lot of people come on this and do this. You see this here?
Yep.
That's a big no-no. That defeats the purpose. I want to get fully sunken in.
It's funny, when you don't have a training partner either, this is a great way to allow yourself to get an extra couple of reps at the bottom, kind of guide it up.
Now Frank is going all the way up, so he's fully contracting his bicep. He can't go any further, but he can contract a little bit more. Show him a supination at the top. Let's see, he goes in. So just by doing that little twist, he's making a lot more of a contraction. It makes the exercise a lot harder.
There was a bodybuilder back in the day, he used to take this grip, see my wrist?
Yeah.
Bend it down, and he swore that it would give him a better bicep.
Yeah.
I don't think it would. But I was just saying, like, people do have their theories.
I think because the weight is cantilever, it puts more tension, but it's putting a lot of tension on the wrist. And one of my rules, I gotta agree with Frank. One of my rules is don't ever let a weight dictate your wrist. If a weight is pulling your wrist down, bring it up and hold it rigid. If a weight is pulling your wrist up, pull it down and hold it rigid. So on the side laterals, when I go heavy, my wrist will do this. I will not allow it. You'll hurt your wrist and you'll put a lot of stress on your brachioradialis. Your brachioradialis is getting used every single day. Even on leg day, you're using that muscle by picking up the weights. So if you overwork this and you tax this muscle, which I have done before and I'm sure he has too, you're out of commission. You can barely hold a dumbbell or a barbell.
And make sure you do take a tight grip because this is a change. Something's a change. So basically, if you have a loose grip, you're going to affect your bicep, you can tear your shoulder. So make sure you have a tight grip when you're doing certain movements. I mean, sometimes people like the bench press, they're loose in the hands and stuff. Not a good way, easy way to get injured.
Absolutely. We could do this the other way too. What are these called? Spider curls?
Yeah. Are those the Vince Gironda curls?
Same rule, just a different angle. And if you guys don't have one of these, where else can they do this?
You know what? They can do this off of a bench, down, or even just freestyle.
Yeah.
You know?
I've done it on the incline bench before, but you know, the dumbbell will hit the bench, but it's still better than nothing.
It's almost similar to a seated concentration curl. You know, if you want that isolation. You don't have the equipment. Again, full range of motion, full stretch, full contraction. Excellent. My hand's gonna hit the floor because my arms are long.
So, as lean as Frank is, he's a perfect person to do this with. You saw how his shoulders were completely striated before. You saw every muscle. Look, nothing happened. It's relaxed. But look at his bicep. So I promise you, if he was standing doing this, you would see the shoulder fire, which isn't wrong. But again, we're trying to take out the secondary muscle. Here is the front delt. You guys understand that there's primary muscle, secondary. There's always the muscle that you're training, your bicep, but there's always other muscles that come into play, and that's what we try to take out of the equation.
Do you like to do like a little time under tension here too?
I do.
You could.
When
just slow, kind of slow rep.
This kills me, and I always get to a point where this is one of those exercises where when I'm shot, I can't even lift it another.
See the fibers in your arm?
Yeah.
Someone asked, should you squeeze the top?
Always. You should always squeeze, and you should always almost act as if you're flexing. Now again, when you come to the top on this exercise or any other exercise, you can come up and let go, or you can come up and squeeze and then let go. So if you come up and let go, you're not really getting the benefit of the full contraction. There's two spots in every set where you could possibly take the load off the muscle, at the bottom and at the top. Now, depending on the exercise and depending on your technique and how heavy you're going, sometimes you can, but for the most part, we try to keep the tension on the muscle. So it's okay if the tension's off because you're doing full range and getting a stretch, but completely taking the tension away at the top of every rep by going too fast, using momentum, or bouncing, I don't recommend that. I think you should flex. I think you should squeeze. And besides, one major thing I want to say, Frank, is besides all these tips that we gave you guys today to grow more muscle and benefit you physique-wise, aesthetically, if you listen to us and what we're saying, you're less prone to injury. Everything that we told you is going to help you stay away from injury. And believe me, I'm telling you guys, I'm hurting a lot these days with my shoulder. And, you know, in some ways I could say it was inevitable. In some ways I could say if I took our advice today, when I was 20 years old, maybe I wouldn't have hurt my shoulder. You know, so doing all the little tricks and tips that Frank told you today, that I told you guys, it will improve your physique and your progress in the gym, but it'll also keep you guys doing this consistently for a long time, because injuries suck, believe me.
Especially with summer coming. Yeah. Be fully functional.
One more question. Favorite exercise for rear delt?
So I'm a big rear delt guy. I'll let Frank answer this, but I love to do dumbbells, bent over or on a bench, and also face pulls from a lat pull down.
And also today, I actually did rear delt. I did reverse pec deck, which is a mainstay in my routine. But I did 5 sets, kind of working my way up. Then I did a triple drop set, and then I did a high rep set of 50. And I did it pretty quickly too. I like that, and I did a couple of partial movements at the end. But there's no better rear delt exercise than the old school bent over rear lateral. You can do them on a bench too. You can do them on an incline bench or stuff, but that's like the king. That's like considered like a bench press to chest. That's like the rear lateral. I love it.
That's my favorite, but it's a small muscle, so I can bend over and do 50 pounds of a bend in my elbow. But if I fully contract my arm and extend it, I'm weakening my tricep and my trap by extending and locking out. And now with an arm straight like this, I'm not going to be able to do more than 20 pounds, and it's going to target my rear delt. So that person that asked if you've been, focus on the rear delt. It's a very small muscle, so the trap in the upper back will easily overpower. So pull back on the weight a little bit, make sure you're getting the mind muscle connection with the rear delt, and then slowly increase weight.
Cool. We want to thank Arash for coming on today. He's going to be back with us a lot. You know, extremely knowledgeable. Again, one of the best physiques in the Riot Pro League. And we look to see you back on the stage soon again. What's your Instagram, Arash?
Arash Rahbar. Make sure to ask us any questions for next time. You know, if you guys have any questions, you guys can DM me, comment below this post. We love to help you guys. We love to answer your questions. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. And Muscle and Fitness, Frank Seppy, thank you guys for the opportunity. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Arash. Thank you.